Welcome to CMMS Radio, a podcast and general resource for all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, from selection to implementation to help you make better choices and have a successful CMMS journey. We'll bring in experts along the way to help us learn more about CMMS, facilities operations, and much more. If you need help with the CMMS project, send a message at cmmsradio.com using the What's on Your Mind link. Suggest a topic, share your CMMS story, or ask questions. This episode is sponsored by Upkeep, purpose-built for maintenance, reliability, and operations teams. Our mobile-first CMMS and asset operations management solution puts work orders, inventory, and asset info in the palm of your hand. Designed for ease of use and adoption, Upkeep aligns your team for peak business performance. Transform your operations. Transform your success with the multi-platform solution of Upkeep. Visit upkeep.com/CMMS radio to receive a dedicated custom discovery session. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Today, we are joined by Sanya Mathura. She is a highly accomplished professional in the field of engineering and reliability. You know we love that stuff on CMMS radio. She has a proven track record of success in providing solutions to complex problems in various industries. She is currently the Managing Director of Strategic Reliability Solutions Limited, a leading consulting firm that specializes in helping clients improve their asset reliability and maintenance practices. She's a published author. She's a cited editor and contributor to numerous works and is working on a forthcoming book. It's called Empowering Women in STEM, Working Together to Inspire the Future. It's going to be out in March 2024, so that's coming up pretty soon. This will probably drop right around that time. She is a member of several professional industry organizations. I've heard all kinds of great stuff about her and what she does for the industry. Multiple degrees, 15 years experience, all this great stuff. Sits on the editorial board for Precision Lubrication magazine and is a digital editor for STLE's TLT magazine for 2024. Bunch of stuff. We're going to get into all that. Sanya, welcome to CMMS Radio.
Thank you for having me, Greg. I'm excited to be here. I love your stuff. You do a lot for the industry. I'm like, I should be saying your intro and your bio as well, because a lot of the things that you do, they help so much with the industry. They break down so many different barriers. So I love that you're doing that, and you are doing amazing work. So thank
Thank
you for that.
Well, I really appreciate that. And, you know, the whole thing we're all trying to do here is just keep the industry moving, improving. And a lot of people kind of struggle with when it comes to maintenance and reliability. I think when I say people struggle, I'm talking about organizations, because organizations really are about people, and they're sometimes trying to do too much too soon. They don't go through a maturation process. Maybe it's because culture or something like that hasn't been considered in those decisions. So I kind of want to get into some of that stuff. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm very excited to have you on, because a lot of the people that have been on CMMS radio, those that I've met and become friends with in the industry, they all know exactly who you are.
Oh
And
boy, no
it
pressure.
yeah. So one of the things I wanted to start off with, kind of a weird question, but when it comes to culture, not just within maintenance teams, but when we look at kind of the world, right? You've been around throughout the world working with people on these things, whether it be, you know, virtually, in person, at conferences. Do you see any kind of a difference in the approaches to maintenance and reliability regionally throughout the world?
Hmm. Yes, yes, there are some differences. So I'm gonna pull back to the Caribbean first of all, because I'm from the Caribbean. If you didn't know, now you know. Good time to have a vacation because all of those snowstorms in the U.S. But anyways, in the Caribbean, we do have a little bit more of a relaxed culture, so it's difficult to get people to, you know, sometimes see the value in doing maintenance and reliability in terms of, let's be a little bit proactive about that. Nobody wants to come out on the weekend, partner. Nobody. Everybody wants to stay home. But if you can try and help them get over that boundary. You know, it's 4 o'clock on a Friday. I am leaving here at 3:50, not 4 p.m. I'm leaving before time, and if I have that maintenance task to do, the next shift will get it. Sometimes we have that culture, and it starts locally in the way that we do things. And I'm not going to get into governmental organizations and their rate of work, but I'm just drawing a reference. But sometimes, especially in the Caribbean, we have a little bit more for a laid back mentality. Somebody else will pick it up, somebody will do it. And it's not like that in every organization. Because, of course, Trinidad is the hub for industrial oil and gas. So they have some of the larger companies. I mean, we've been in oil and gas for the past 100 years. So we've had a couple of companies come and grow with us. The Shell, the BP, the ExxonMobil, all of them, they have plants in Trinidad. So sometimes they would bring the Dutch culture or different cultures, and it's difficult for some of the Trinidadians to get accustomed to that. So they're like, why do we have to do this? Why is this so much by the book? So yes, culture is something that when we're going into organizations to understand maintenance and reliability, it would be a good idea to go to the country maybe a week before, feel out the culture, understand like how it works. Because sometimes people have different cultures, and that transcends into the workplace, and that's where it starts. So I would say it does differ. Because let me give a very random example. Some Trinidadians would say, I will be there for 10 a.m., and you don't see them until 1 p.m., but they're on time, all right? So it doesn't work like that in Europe. If a German tells you, I'll be there at 10, they are there at 9:55. So that's why culture is different in different countries, different regions. So getting to know your culture is very important, especially in maintenance and reliability, because that's going to help you to understand how the culture works. It also helps you to understand what drives them. So if their important things are, my gosh, I'm pulling a Trinidadian example again. They need to stop and get breakfast at the side of the road with a double stand. You can ask Andy Gager about this. I'm totally calling you out on it. Um, then you bring doubles to the workplace. You are already inside with the maintenance and reliability team if you do that. So that helps you to break down a lot of barriers. It helps you to be able to go into the system to understand how they work. What are the things that are important to them? Food is very important to us. Very important. So once you have food, you can get somebody to do a lot and help you throughout the plant. They'll be by your side. So I think culture is important to understand, especially in maintenance and reliability, because it goes it goes back to the people and how they are. If they're very warm and friendly, they'll be like, "Yes, sure, come with us." And I had, um, for example, in a Metal, the guy is like, follow me around for a day, follow me around for a day. And I'm like, am I getting food? So yes, sold. That's it. That's all I need.
It's this is so interesting to me, and so I've been in a few different places in the world, but not too many, right?
Hmm.
I'm not big on international travel, but one of the things I learned about in school, when I was studying psychology, and we got onto the subject of chronemics. And chronos, it's time. And there's an interesting difference when it comes to collectivistic cultures versus individualistic cultures, and how that shapes the worldview of the people operating within those cultures. So when you look at a culture, let's say we use Trinidad as an example, there will be a chronemic disinhibition in that, yep, got to be there at 10. They show up at 1 o'clock, and you might have an American there going, hey, what's going on here? And everybody else is like, no big deal. We're going to get it done. But we're not ruled by that. Whereas we get into these more individualized or industrial type environments, cultures, if you will. And I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying it's kind of an interesting thing to explore. And what you're talking about, I'm just like, wow, that's what it is. I sometimes wish we could kind of blend the two, but it's very challenging. So I really appreciate you sharing those insights. I mean, it's like, and the people I've worked with in the past over the last, like, I don't know, 15, 20 years that are in the Caribbean, very different. They're like, Greg, come over, see if you could come over. And just very, very warm and welcoming. Of course, other cultures are too, but I really appreciate that. So I wanted to ask you two things. Number one, what is STEM?
Oh boy, how much time do you have?
Uh,
So, STEM is the acronym that we've grown up with, and it stands for science, technology, engineering, mathematics. But recently, it's grown to include an A, standing for arts, which is lovely, perfect, because when you think about it, it is part of science, it is part of technology. Art is so much involved in everything that we do. So I love that they've broken down the acronym to include arts. So that I love that. And I guess we're coming to the woman in STEM stuff because I what let me give you a bit of a backstory with how this book um got you know into the world. So I was writing two books at a point in time. I was writing a book with Bob Latino, and I was writing a book with Michael Holloway. And my editor from CRC Press, she sent me a note and she's like, I want to do something about women in STEM. I want to try and increase the amount of people that we have in it. I want to try and tell more stories about it. I'm like, that's nice. That's great. I love that. That's perfect. And she's like, I want you to help me to do a book. And I'm like, I don't know if I could do that right now. I have a lot of things going on. And like I slept on it and I was like, this is going to take me a lot of time, a lot of hours. But you know what? I will put that in because if I can make a difference in at least one person's life, one person to help encourage them into STEM, then I would have done something purposeful. So that's how the book came about. And the first book is we have like 20 different authors, different countries. I have guys in there. So guys are telling their story too, and I love that. I totally love that because it's not just about the women, it's about the guys as well and how we could work together. And that's how I thought about the title for the second book. Because the second book is, working together. And one of the main things that I do with all of my books, I make sure that it's not targeted to, you know, saying bad things about one side or the other because we need to coexist. There's no, roundabout way about it. We have to do that. And a lot of times, some of the guys, when they do their chapter, they start it off with, I am not experienced in this field. I love that. Say, I have complete imposter syndrome for this, but here's what I've realized, and here's what I think we can do to help. So it's so amazing having these guys write these chapters and seeing it from their perspective because a lot of times we hear one side of the story and then we have everybody thinking, how do I support this? What can I do? I'm not in STEM. I'm not in any of those fields, but how can I help some of these women who are in these fields? And the thing about the chapters, like the chapters, especially for the second book, because I have, I'm not giving away too much, but I have people who were working in finance and they switched to engineering. Good for them. But I also have people who are working in venture capital firms, and their venture capital firm specializes in supporting women startups that are in STEM. Like how amazing is that? So you don't have to be in a particular field. You don't have to, you know, work in STEM to support other people in STEM. Because there's so much we could do. We just need to work together. That's the main thing.
One of the things that you said I really love, and I kind of say something similar, is when we do something that does in fact help one person, that's the goal. And sure, maybe it scales, maybe it doesn't, but I try to lean in on the idea of being helpful. And when it comes to contributions, like with your book and how that comes together, and you talk about industry professionals with the real experience in maintenance and reliability or otherwise that are about to make a contribution to your book that really revolves around STEM, I think what happens is we start to find out, even with like CMMS, computerized maintenance management, maintenance and reliability, assets, and all this stuff, we all have things that we can contribute. And the more you learn and the more you put out there, along with these collaborations, it starts to resonate one person at a time. But I also like what you said, like you're mentioning someone's like right away out of the gate telling you, hey, I'm no expert on this, but here's what I see. And what they're doing is bringing their expertise and it starts to all tie together. It's almost like when, you've got multiple degrees, when you get in there and you're studying some of the things that you might at first think don't relate to your degree, and then by the end you see all the links and the dotted lines. And I think that's the funnest part about like what I do when it comes to connecting with someone like you and being able to just have a really nice conversation around these things. Somebody out there is going to put it together and go, oh yeah, I like that. Oh yeah, I never knew that. Anything like that is what we're trying to do. So next question I have is really around maintenance and reliability. So, what is it about maintenance and reliability that matters most when it comes to making an impact on one's organization or even in their personal lives?
Oh boy, that's a big one. But so I'm gonna tell you a bit of how I got into maintenance and reliability. So maybe we can pull it back a little bit there. So my bachelor's degree is actually in electrical and computer engineering. Nothing to do with oil. Not a drop of oil there. If there was, then something will malfunction. But um, I did get my bachelor's in that, and then I worked in the industry for about 2 years doing some of those things. You know, only female on the plant, only person in coveralls that was that young and female. So I had a lot of the guys look out for me, and I'm very thankful for that. Um, then I transitioned into this role with Shell lubricants, and I remember going for the interview, and the person who interviewed me, he would later become my boss. Afterwards, he called me and he's like, you have these two things going against you. You're female and you're young. And I'm like, well, ain't nothing I can do to change that. And he's like, but I could see it working for you. I could see you, learning your blank slate. You can learn all about this. I know you're female, so you're gonna try a little bit harder because you have something to prove, right? So I started there and I knew nothing about oil. So I went to my first training conference and everybody gets up and they're around the room and this guy's like, I am so and so and I have 22 years experience in this business and I'm just there like, well, let me wait for my turn. And it comes to my side, and I'm like, I'm Sanya, I'm from Trinidad. I know what 22 years of life experience feels like, and I have 1 week on the job. So that's what I could bring to the table. I'm here to learn, and we'll figure it out as we go. So don't let that be a burden to you. Don't let that be that you're the youngest person in the room, and people may say that you don't know what's going on. That's okay. You're here to learn. We all here to learn. So after I started going out on these industrial plants, and Trinidad, we've got a lot of them. We do a lot of heavy manufacturing, petrochemical, oh, all of the things, oil and gas. And I started to deal with the engineers, the reliability engineers who were having problems with their oil. And I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is connected to reliability through lubrication. And that's when I fell in love with reliability. And the fact that, like you said, everything is connected, like everything goes hand in hand. And I believe that the reliability field is a little bit different from some of the other fields in that it's not as cutthroat. We try to help people out, and I've seen the difference, and it's just so nice to work within the reliability field because if you don't know something, you can reach out to somebody who does, and they may be able to help you. So I love that about the field, and just getting into maintenance and reliability. I would tell people it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of rewarding work. And I want to make sure that I answer your question. I went off on a full tangent there, but just
No, not a,
remind me of your question a little bit so I can answer that part.
it's okay. That's one of the reasons I try to keep it rather unstructured
That's
because
fine.
when we're here in this forum, medium, whatever it is, we get the benefit of having this conversation as if nobody's around, and it ends up being exactly what everyone needs and wants to hear. So we don't have to always stay on script. I don't like scripts anyway. I'm a no prep kind of guy, but that doesn't mean I don't prepare. I think what it's more about is we're digging into your passions and we
Okay.
find out how that resonates. So yes, I think when it comes to the question that I had, when it
Mhm.
comes to maintenance and reliability, you actually did answer it.
Oh, I did.
And I kind of like when we forget the question we were asked because we're so deep in the passion of what we care about. So that's
Okay,
that's
that
important. That's
works.
important. Here's another one for you.
Hmm.
So, do you find that a simple approach to maintenance when it comes to equipment assets is the best approach, or is there a good reason for a more complex approach?
Hmm. So that is two sided. That is very two sided. Because I always love a simple approach, but I love a simple approach when we're now initiating the problem. So if we're now trying to discover what's going on, go simple. Go simple because you need to understand your basics and your fundamentals. And that's one thing that I always try to do. Make sure you get the fundamentals right. If you don't get that right, everything goes out the window. But start off with simple and then you can go complex because what happens is that if you're trying so hard to keep it simple when it needs to be a little more complex. There are times it has to be complex because that's the way that you're going to get a more structured answer or a more structured analysis. And I I applaud the people who try to keep it simple, but sometimes there is a level of complexity involved. Just look at humans. We're not all that simple. The way this body functions. So there's a lot of complexities that we do not understand. But going back to the maintenance and going back to your assets, simple is good when you're now starting off and trying to detect a problem, or you're trying to, now get, you know, understanding your assets, trying to figure out how it's supposed to be. But a level of complexity adds a whole different layer to it because it makes it more valuable. So This is a very bad example. But would you go for a BMW over, a BMW or a Range Rover over, a lower tier car? And I'm not gonna call names because I am gonna get called out about it. But I'm gonna just use that as a reference. There's some people who need a level of complexity to get certain things done, and then there's some people who just need to stay a little bit simpler. Maybe a bicycle, you know, easy bicycle
Well,
compared to a car.
one thing that doesn't change there though is the fundamentals.
Exactly, you still need to get to where you need to go.
Do
So,
you do you think we could say that we can apply that same approach to maintenance management? And then of course I'm going to bring back the computerized maintenance management software where we could start simple. Let's say if you don't even have a solution in place
hmm
and deal with the complexities later, because starting simple but making sure those basic fundamentals are rock solid, you will build on that,
hmm
and that's a good place to start. Yeah.
always, always a good place to start.
do, do you find that when we're utilizing computerized maintenance management software in our maintenance and reliability best practices and program development within an organization, that the majority of the resistance comes from not letting the teams and the people doing the work ahead of time know what you're doing and involving them?
Yes, yes, definitely 100%. And this is where food is very important. We go back to the food, right? You start off this maintenance meeting with some snacks. That brings everybody in. It doesn't matter which country you're in.
Yeah.
You may need some gluten-free snacks accordingly. But start off with snacks, and this is what you need to get them, get their buy-in, get their inputs before you even start to install these CMMSs, because a lot of times people are very resistant to change, very resistant to change. They don't want to work longer hours, they don't want to add another task to their, ever growing list of things to do. But if you start showing them the value, if we start putting this in, you get to save an hour of doing that. You know, we build it in and we work together. And don't, like, I would always advise people for CMMSs, don't just put something in place and expect everybody to be on board with it. You need to talk to your people first. You need to make sure that they understand the value and that they are comfortable with it, because that is another aspect as well, because a lot of the senior folks, they're like, I don't want to do this. I haven't done this for my entire career. Why do I need to do it now? What is the value in it? What's in it for me? Like, why do I even have to? So by breaking it down to them and showing them how you can do this, that's a great way to get them more involved in it and get them to actually start seeing the value of it. And one of the one of the tricks that I like to say in terms of when you're now rolling this out to a particular organization, do a trial run first. Do a trial run on a small group of people, your maintenance people. Let them start putting things in, and then let them show the others the value of having it. It's more value from them. Just, tricks of the trade, something that I've picked up over time. Getting the teams on the ground to understand the value and to show that to the other teams is, that's the winner. That's a game changer. Because once they can see the value, I'm not telling them about the value. They are telling you and the other people about the value. So, and it's something that they are proud about because they are the test group and they are the elite, group. So they're like telling all their friends, you know, you need to use this.
That I love that, because that's where I think a lot of us, we are a bit more willing to buy in,
Yes.
support, and even if we don't love it, we can go into it saying, I'm going to learn to love this because now I understand so and so and
Yes.
so and so, and this person and that person actually gave me some insight as to the meaning behind why they're willing to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was something as simple as, well, I can get out a little bit earlier on
Yes.
Friday afternoon because now
Mm-hmm.
I know what's been done, and I can go and spend more time with my family,
Mm-hmm.
or go to the beach, or do some kind of other task that has to do with your personal life. So it's really interesting. So now I'm going to switch up some of the questions a little bit. Number one is going to be around sensor monitoring and all this. A lot of people, a lot of stuff flying around. It's the
So
best thing
much.
since this, that, or the other. And I just want to ask you a very blunt question about it.
Okay.
Is it overhyped and oversold? And if so, what might be a better approach to
Mm.
sensor monitoring integration?
I love that question because it's something that we hear about so much. Like, yes, you need to use sensors. Use sensors for everything in your life. No, there are certain things that you cannot use sensors for. I'm going back to the fundamentals. How does a sensor work? It detects capacitance or some sort of resistance, right? Can you do certain things that you would need, let's say, a little more complex equipment to detect those changes? You cannot do that with a sensor. You maybe you can get some input from it that can correlate to how it's supposed to be. So going back to your fundamentals again, so if you're measuring temperature, let's do something basic as temperature. You're measuring temperature from a sensor on the inside of an equipment. Your sensor is not uh, it's not a thermometer. It's not a thermometer. But it can do a correlation between the temperature that it believes that it feels to the resistance that is experiencing. Make sense?
Yeah.
So everything that a sensor does, it's a correlation to something else. It's not the exact thing. So basic fundamentals, right? Keeping it simple. So that's my thing with sensors. Unless they are fully calibrated and tested, sometimes they can be wrong. Nothing can replace a human. Nothing is more complex than that. But having humans on the ground available and with I'm gonna call it auxiliary equipment, to do testing and whatnot. I think that we will not get away from doing that in the future. While I love the direction that sensors are going and AI, oh, don't we can talk about AI too, but integrating AI with sensors, perfect, lovely. But somebody needs to train the AI, and that's so we're seeing the same thing where the AI, and we say it's artificial intelligence, but where the AI is trained by somebody who may not be trained in that particular field. And we know from the maintenance and reliability field, depending on your experience, so let's say you've only worked in ammonia plants for all of your life. So that is your experience. So you're accustomed to, forgive me, contamination of ammonia in everything, right? If you go in and you're talking to people who are manufacturing another type of chemical or doing bottled water, it's a total different it's a total different thing. That's a closed loop system. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. It has to be pure. So having the AI trained is is nice. It needs to be a panel of experts. And unless we have all of that data, all of that expertise pulled into one, the one thing that we're missing is that human instinct and that guiding factor that we cannot program. It doesn't matter what sensor you have, you cannot program that. So humans are going to be around a lot, and we still depend on them. Yes, sometimes we mess up. Oh boy, I've seen some things. But we still need humans to do some physical, going out there, listening to the equipment. Having a sensor on a piece of equipment is nice. It's great because you get real time data, you get continuous data, you can look at trends, but you also have to remember, is this data valid? Is it giving you the information that you want? In that, is the sensor placed in the right location? That's something that people, totally forget about and underestimate. But the other thing is my sensor adding value to what I want to do? Because and I'm gonna use oil analysis as an example. If you are performing, and I'm gonna say like an MBC patch test, basically you pour some oil. This is simple vision. You pour some oil through a coffee filter and you check the, whatever residues in there. It's kind of difficult to get that with a sensor, right? So there are certain things that will not go away in terms of certain tests, certain industry standards. But sensors are here. I'm glad if we integrate them, but just please do not forget that you have a brain and you should use it from time to time. You know, just use it from time. A little bit, 2 or 3 times a day, perfect.
Yeah, I love that, and it's not dissimilar to what we see, what we hear, what we're reading about. We get in these private conversations, and people cut really loose. Where people are buying way too many sensors when you don't need them. I don't pretend to be an expert on sensor monitoring in any way, and I think what I see is not dissimilar to what you see, where the sensors, they certainly do provide a value, but you have to figure out where that value is as you're planning to get and bring in sensors, rather than let's get the sensors and then figure out where the value is. And I think that happens a little bit too often. And to be fair, everybody's doing what they got to do and trying to hit a number. But the other thing about sensors that I've learned, especially throughout 2023, some of the different experts that have come on CMMS radio and people I've had conversations with at conferences, is where also be extremely mindful of whether a sensor is providing uh, a, a leading indicator or a trailing indicator type of information, because you're gonna do something very different with that data and probably utilize it to flip back, and that's going to require somebody that knows how to interpret that data to make that correction in your maintenance process, so that what are we all chasing? We want to
Mhm.
reach some level where we have continual process improvement. That's a mic drop right there, because if you're at that level as an organization and as a team, all you do now is utilize the things and the people that are in place to constantly improve. You don't fix as many problems,
Yes.
right? You'll still have some breakage, but this is why these conversations are so awesome, because it's going to help somebody kind of figure this out. Now, quick question about conferences. Do you make the rounds on occasion and go to certain conferences in different parts of the world? Do you do that in certain regions? I'm curious what that looks like for 2024.
For 2024, I am going to be hitting a couple of conferences. So I should be in the US in Detroit for the Lubricant Expo North America and Bearing Show. I believe that's in Detroit from the 19th to the 21st of March. So I will be there. I may be very much layered up because my Caribbean blood can't handle all that cold, but it's okay. Um, and I will be doing the Mobius UK conference, and I believe that is in May. I can't remember the dates exactly, but hopefully it's in May. It's definitely in May. I am doing Mobius is actually having their week of webinars next week. Um, I'm not sure at the time of the airing of this podcast, but I know that on Monday the 21st, I will be doing some. It's a little bit of a panel discussion about condition monitoring. Why not? We're going to be talking about that. And I have a couple of other virtual conferences set up for like the rest of the year because it's always interesting to find out what goes on. And of course, we run LRVS, which is Lubrication and Reliability Virtual Summit. And I love those because it's so much fun. It is, it allows everybody to be on the same level playing field. And that's one of the major differences with LRVS because we can have competitors in the same room and they can have such a good conversation. We encourage that
I,
totally.
I I know some of the people that have been speakers or contributors on
Oh,
that, and
yes.
I wanted to attend in 2023, and the
Shoot.
time zone thing kind of messed me up with my schedule, but
Mm-hmm.
I know all about it, so maybe we can get some stuff going to promote that a little
Yes,
bit more
for
for
sure.
people, and maybe I can get a link and point people to it. So now I want to get into some
Yes.
fun questions.
And just LRVS, we actually just made the last 3 years, actually the first 3 years of LRVS, so 2020, 2021, and 2022, over 100 different speakers, different topics. They're all available for free on YouTube. So, something you could check out.
Yeah, it's good stuff because you get the right kind of people
Yes,
together talking about similar topics, and it's just nothing but learning and lots of networking. And that's not just to chase down the numbers. These are people, everyone, the people I've been talking to for the last year or so,
yeah,
been at this about 2 years, a little bit more. They all want to help, just like what you were
yeah,
talking about early in this episode, Sanya. It's That's the thing that I see,
yeah,
because somehow the other part works itself out. How
yeah.
can I keep doing this and get the
Hmm.
money to keep doing this? Well, the more you help, that just shows up. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
Um, so now for the fun
Oh
questions.
boy. Okay.
Number one,
Hmm.
what is your favorite music?
Oh boy. Right now I listen to a lot of different things. So I like a little bit of pop, a little bit of reggae, a little bit of Caribbean music, a little bit of, country, some jazz. It depends on the mood. Totally depends on the mood.
All
So
right.
like I don't have a favorite per se, like this is my go-to. I have to listen to this. But it's very mixed, like myself.
But not you're not listening to too much like polka music or anything like
Oh
that,
no, I
right?
don't.
All
Yeah.
right. All
That
right.
one's
Good.
not my playlist, sorry.
I'm just being silly. So next question, and
Mhm.
this one I kind of like. So, favorite sport or hobby, and it doesn't have to be one that you actually do when it comes to the sport. It might be one that you prefer to watch or support. So, favorite sport or hobby.
So, and we may fall out for this one. Um, I do like football, but it's not the American version of football. It's you know the rest of the world version of football, the World Cup version of football. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I do like that one. Spectator sport though. I can't afford to get injured. And I do like going for like just the nature walks. That's like I love that. I um Rob was very kind to He's gonna
I,
tell me I
I
messed up
got
his
you.
last name. Yeah,
Rob Kavarowski.
thank you for saying it. He's gonna tell me I messed up his last name, but that's okay. So we were in Costa Rica, and he and his wife they rented this cabin for us in the mountains. And for a weekend, it was amazing. We did a waterfall hike, a volcano hike. So it was so good. Very relaxing weekend. Cold, but very relaxing weekend. So
Yeah.
I do like that. And of course, I have to go shopping. So
Yeah.
he pulled
Yeah.
me away from the Black Friday sales, but that's okay. I got my stuff before. It's all right. It's good.
Yeah. No. And speaking of Rob, um, a lot of times on my episode, I talk about he's got a program around,
Yes.
a-hole bosses,
Oh,
anybody
yes.
that's dealing with one or thinks they might be one or whatever. there's a program that they can get, and I know you're aware of that
Oh,
program.
for sure.
And we've got a CMMS radio offer for people, so they can just go to
Good.
How to Deal Boss, register for that program, grab it. You get $50 off if you plug in the code CMMS radio, all smushed together. So that was a slight. Uh, it's almost like a public service announcement. It's
It
not
is. I think it's a
advertising per se.
public. It
It's
is a public service announcement,
yeah,
and he also has a book that you can get for free.
the
So
ebook.
check that the ebook. Yes, he
Yep,
has the ebook as well, which is pretty good because I went through it already, so I
100%. Yeah,
know.
Rob Calvarowski, anybody, search
Yes.
for it. Don't worry about how to spell it. You could do
Yeah.
Coach Rob K. Check out my stuff. We'll find it. Check out Sonya's stuff. She's got some things that'll point you in his direction as well. Awesome guy, understands maintenance and reliability incredibly well.
Super.
Collegiate athlete, understands how to help people become high performing leaders, on and on like that. So enough on that endorsement. One more fun question for you,
Okay.
Sonya.
Mm.
And there are no wrong answers here.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, good question.
Please give us your perspective or ideas on work life balance or
Oh my
achieving work
gosh.
life balance.
This is one that I struggle with because I work, so I'm gonna tell you now. I prefer to work on weekends because I have no interruptions. Like I don't have the emails coming in, I do have the phone calls, I do have the meetings, I do have the constant deadlines, and that's when I do most of my writing for my books. So if you want to be writing books, you need to be writing on the weekend. Just saying, or just cut out the time for it. But we need to have more work-life balance. And for me, I found that, and that was one of the things that I had to learn or was forced to learn recently. Rob helped me with that, you know, um, because I was burnt out last year, and I was at a point where I'm like, oh my god, like I just can't do this anymore. Like it's too much going on, and if you follow me on LinkedIn, you know I do quite a lot. So it was a lot going on, and in I believe in November we ended up doing a trip to Costa Rica because we needed that time away, and without knowing it, yeah, I got sick the first week I was there. Like I was totally sick. And I'm like, biodiversity doesn't agree with me, but that's not true. I picked up something in the airport, but we what we learned is that you should or you need to learn how to slow down. So, and that's their mantra across there. Their whole thing is pura vida and being able to slow down. And don't worry about it. We'll get it done. And I'm there like, I have to get this done. I have to get it. And I'm like, okay, no, it will be done. It'll be done at the right time. And the one thing that like I've realized over the past few years is that if you do not take the time to take the time for yourself, you will be forced to do it. You will be forced to do it, which is what I learned time and time again. If you do not do it, your body will force you to take time. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what you don't want to have happen. That's definitely the one want to have happen. So, like for today, for instance, this is my first meeting of the day. I was away from my computer for the entire day. I had a lot of errands to run. Trust me,
Mm-hmm.
traffic is not the best thing here. But this is my first meeting for the day, and it is almost 6 p.m. in the afternoon on my side of the day. So, what I try to do, um, and this sounds weird because I push a lot of work on the weekends because I can get so much done. And it's quality work. It's stuff that I could get done and I know that it's done for the next week. Or in my case, sometimes for the next 6 months because I'm such a planner that I plan ahead a lot of the times. But I get that done over the weekends, and during the week, I take that time to do other things, to do some errands, to get stuff done because I know that just at my computer, having the emails come in, having the everything else come in, the meetings and whatnot, I'm going to be distracted. I'm not going to be
Yeah.
able to get that type of work done. So that's how I try to do stuff. And what I try to do on the weekdays that I am working, I try to cut off by a particular time. And my computer is, yes, I have a laptop and it can be moved upstairs, but I do not bring work into the bedroom.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah.
I think that's a good policy. We You
Yes.
can get in trouble that way.
Yes,
Yeah.
everybody can. So there is a designated area for my computer. That's where it stays. That's where I do my work. That is it. When the screen is down, I'm not doing any work. Yes, I'm checking my phone if I hear things coming on, but that's another thing that I do as well is that my phone is on do not disturb for most of the day because it goes off so much.
Yeah. Well,
Because
so
it's a lot of notifications and there's so much noise.
yeah, and this is why I always say there's no wrong answers, because we need to kind of dance around it and put things out. So, first of all,
Yeah.
Sonya, I want to thank you for being here with me, and I want to tell people how to get in touch with you. If you'd like to get in touch with Sonya, you can find her on LinkedIn. You can also visit strategicreliabilitysolutions.com. You can learn all about what they're doing for the industry, and you can get help with your projects. And please order Sonya's books on Amazon. You can find them. Sanya Mathura. I'll put some info when we drop this episode so you can look that stuff up. But again, Sonya, thank you for being here with me on CMMS Radio. It was really, really fun getting these insights and having you share your journey.
It was so good to be here, Greg. Like I've been meaning to come on this for a very long time, but thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, it was a blast. Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit cmmsradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.